You do not move the river by pushing it. You become the river by letting go of the shore. Power, the sort of power that cannot be taken from you because it is not a possession, awakens the instant you cease trying to possess it. The moment you release your grip on how things must be, you discover they already are, alive, complete, and infinitely more intelligent than the plans you were clutching. This is not resignation. This is not fatalism. It is the recognition that the hand which thinks it directs the world is itself a wave of the world, and that the whole ocean is moving with a grace you do not have to invent. Surrender is not defeat. Surrender is the revelation that there was never a war. You have been taught to tighten your jaw around uncertainty, to tighten your heart against loss, to tighten your mind until it clicks into some fixed, supposedly safe shape. But tightness is a small room with no windows, and your life is the open sky. When you stop bracing against the wind, you find the wind carries you. When you stop refusing the rain, you notice that the rain is the very water you came here to drink. The world has never demanded your resistance. It has simply offered you the perpetual invitation to dance. Your refusals do not make you strong. They make you tired. Surrender is not the collapsing of a weak will, but the unmasking of an ancient strength, the effortless intelligence that causes acorns to become oaks, embryos to become eyes, grief to become gentleness. It is the power that appears when the self stops holding its breath. Ask not how to control life, for life is the one doing the breathing. Watch how a cat leaps and lands without consulting a manual, how music plays the musician as much as the musician plays the music. There is a profound order here, a choreography that does not require your panic. When you yield to it, you do not become a puppet. You become a partner. You do not disappear. You become transparent to something vast and tender. The wave is not less for acknowledging the sea. In surrender, you exchange the strained posture of the commander for the balanced poise of the surfer, no less alert, no less alive, but finally moving with the thing you once fought. And then you find the strange truth. What you thought was giving up is really waking up. What you called letting go is simply letting be. And what you feared would make you powerless reveals the only power that was ever real. Consider the breath. You may imagine you are doing it, like a task, like a chore to be accomplished well. But watch closely. The breath happens. There is a rhythmic tide, coming and going without a supervisor. Try to control it, and you will immediately feel the tightness of meddling with something perfectly capable on its own. This is the human tragedy and the human comedy. We forget that we arise from processes that don't need our fussing, and then we fuss in order to feel necessary. We confuse effort with essence, management with meaning. Imagine a man in a river trying to swim upstream with his fists clenched. He is determined, heroic even, but exhausted. He believes advancement is measured by the soreness of his muscles. Then one day, by accident or despair, his hands open. The water slides between his fingers. He turns to face downstream, and quite without fanfare, the river begins to carry him. Has he become lazy? No. He has become wise. He has exchanged the fantasy of control for the artistry of cooperation. He has discovered that surrender is not a retreat, it is a realignment. We cling because we fear emptiness. The ego is a tire with a slow leak. It keeps pumping itself to hold a shape. Surrender threatens the ego's story of being the author, the proprietor, the one in charge. It whispers, "If I don't steer, I will vanish." But notice, in those moments when you laughed so fully you forgot to manage your face, in those minutes when the sunset burned the script out of your head, were you gone? Or were you more here than ever? The fear that surrender erases you is the fear of losing a costume. What is revealed beneath is not nothingness, but the nakedness of presence. You do not disappear. The pretense does. Power that proceeds from grasping is the sort that needs witnesses, contracts, and locks. It must be guarded, defended, repeated. It is a borrowed throne. The power of surrender does not demand proof because it is not a performance. It is the power of a tree that never attends a seminar on growth yet splits concrete with patience. It is the power of water which does not argue with stone but carves through canyons by simple persistence. It is the power of listening so deeply that the world, relieved, begins to speak. Let us look at paradox. The more you try to be spontaneous, the less spontaneous you become. The more you strive to relax, the tighter you feel. Why? Because the mechanism of striving is antithetical to the state you intend. Relaxation is the cessation of striving. Spontaneity is what remains when the controller stops rehearsing. In surrender, you do not add a technique, you subtract an interference. It is like removing the dam and discovering that the landscape already knows how to be a lake. The art is not in constructing the flow, but in allowing it. This is not to deny the value of intention or the beauty of skill. A dancer trains for years, not to conquer gravity, but to befriend it, not to bully the body, but to hear it. What makes the performance riveting is not the strain, but the grace, the sense that something is moving through the dancer rather than being forced by the dancer. Surrender is that felt sense of being moved, a trust in the larger rhythm that your personal rhythm rides upon. And when you trust it, you become astonishingly effective because you are no longer splitting your energy between doing and doubt. And now a story. A monk carried water uphill twice a day. His shoulders ached, and he was proud of his ache. See how devoted I am, he thought, each time he climbed. One morning the yoke slipped, the bucket spilled, water ran down the path singing. He sat, soaked and furious. An old woman gathering herbs passed by and said, "Why fight the mountain?" The monk blinked, and for the first time he noticed that the village had a lower path where a stream fed a channel into the fields. He had been hauling what wanted to flow. His devotion had been sincere, yes, but misplaced. That evening he redirected the channel with a few stones. The fields drank, his shoulders healed. He did not become less devoted. He became devoted to the way things move. Surrender is intelligent devotion. It listens, it adapts, it cooperates with the shape of reality rather than demanding reality match the shape of an idea. When you live from this cooperation, you find a curious freedom. You can act boldly without the brittleness of certainty. You can love deeply without the insurance policy of guarantee. You can risk without bitterness because you are not bargaining with life. You are dancing with it. Power is no longer the ability to force an outcome, but the capacity to participate fully, to respond fluidly, to be so intimately involved with what is that you become indistinguishable from its unfolding. How, then, to practice surrender without making surrender another project to manage? Begin with sensation. The body is honest. Notice where you brace, the jaw, the shoulders, the belly. Do not command these places to relax like a tyrant ordering subjects. Instead, bring the kindness of attention. Feel the breath pouring its tide into those coves. Softening is not a task. It is the default when interference eases. In conversation, notice the moment you prepare your reply before the other has fired. Nicht speaking. That is the controller polishing its armor. Pause. Let their words land fully. In that small silence you will feel a door open, the door through which understanding enters, and with it the power to answer what was actually said. In work, surrender looks like intimacy with the task rather than obsession with the result. Results arrive by themselves when causes ripen. Your responsibility is the cause. This email written clearly, this craft honed presently, this meeting attended with undivided attention. Aim becomes an arrow that flies straighter when the archer's hand is uncramped. Set intentions, the way sailors set sails, in relation to the wind, not in denial of it. A plan is a conversation with reality, not a decree. Adjust mid-course without drama. The drama is wasted fuel. In relationships, surrender means allowing the other to be other. You cannot love a person as a project. The need to fix is often a fear of feeling. Instead of tightening around their behavior, inquire into your own tenderness. Can you listen until your listening blooms into seeing? Can you refrain from negotiating love as a contract and offer it as sunlight, freely, without tally? This does not mean you accept harm. Boundaries are part of the riverbank that allows the river to sing. But boundaries drawn from presence are clear without cruelty. They do not beg to be respected. They quietly are. When fear arises, and it will, treat it as weather, not prophecy. The storm does not announce the end of sky, it announces rain. Feel fear in the body as energy, buzzing, fluttering, pressure. Breathe as if you were breathing into the center of the sensation, not to get rid of it, but to get acquainted. Strangely, fear respects being met. When you stop refusing it, it loses its wig and costume. Underneath is often excitement, care, the desire to protect something precious. In surrender, fear becomes a messenger instead of a monarch. Try this simple ritual. Once a day, set aside 10 minutes with no agenda. Sit or walk and do not read. H for entertainment, improvement, or explanation. Let sounds arrive, let thoughts arrive and depart as if you were a harbor and they were ships. In this unhurried company, you will remember that you are not your commentary. You are the space in which commentary happens. Decisions made from this space have a different taste, less metallic, more like clean water. You will notice that the right choice often announces itself not as a trumpet, but as a quiet coherence. Surrender tunes you to that coherence. With money and ambition, surrender invites clarity. Money is the energy of exchange, a current. Greed is the attempt to freeze the current into a permanent sculpture. Fear of lack is the belief that the river will not return. Practice giving in small, genuine ways, time, attention, a skill, without expectation of return, and watch how the world responds. The point is not to become reckless, but to learn the rhythm, out-breath, in-breath. The same with ambition. Aim your arrow, but realize that the target is not outside you. The target is the quality of your participation now. When you meet the moment impeccably, results tend to follow like birds trailing a plow. When you chase birds, the field remains unturned. When suffering comes, as loss, illness, endings, surrender is not passive acceptance of injury. It is the softening that permits wisdom to move. One cannot hurry grief. It is a tide. Let it empty you. The emptied vessel can hear the subtle instructions that were drowned out by the noise of managing. Often those instructions are not mystical but practical. Sleep, ask for help. Walk among trees. Speak the truth you have avoided. Power returns not as fireworks but as steadiness. The way dawn does not argue with night, but gently, irresistibly replaces it. At the heart of surrender is a reorientation of identity. You are accustomed to being the knower, the doer, the narrator. But what if you are the knowing itself, the doing that does you, the space in which the narration appears and dissolves? The personal storyline is a beautiful thread, but it is not the loom. When you rest as the loom, the open awareness from which thoughts, feelings, and sensations arise, you discover a peculiar freedom. You can play your role with gusto because you are not imprisoned by it. The king can remove his crown. The beggar can set down his bowl. You are not diminished by the costume. You are enlivened by the play. This loosening of identification is not cold. It is the warmth of intimacy with everything. When the boundary softens, the world ceases to be an it. Trees become old friends. The city hum becomes a choir. Even your own moods cease to be enemies. They are weather patterns in a sky that never tears. To live from this sky is to know a peace that does not depend on conditions. And paradoxically, from this peace arises the courage to meet conditions exactly as they are. You no longer insist that life be easy. You discover that ease is how you meet life. Ego, in its frightened contraction, imagines enlightenment as a prize, a jeweled throne at the end of a thorny road. Surrender reveals it as a manner of walking, thorn and jewel alike included. You do not graduate from being human. You grow tenderly into it. Tears are not errors. Laughter is not a distraction. Both are the river speaking in different dialects. To let go of the ego is not to remove a tumor. It is to relax a fist. What it clutched was never yours to begin with. Opinions as identities, outcomes as salvation, time as a bully. When the fist opens, life places in your palm what it always wished to give, this moment, unbartered. Spiritual freedom is not elsewhere. It is precisely here when you stop postponing your own presence. You may think, I will surrender when I have enough security, enough proof. But security is the byproduct of surrender, not its prerequisite. Proof arrives after trust, the way footprints follow the step. Begin now. clumsily if you must, even see. Clumsy trust is trust, and the river does not mock your attempt. It is delighted to carry you. Now, a gentle ending, not as a conclusion, but as an invitation into quiet. Let us sit together in the temple of ordinary sound. The hum of a distant engine, the soft pulse under your skin, the faint music of your breathing. Feel how life is already happening without your permission and entirely with your participation. Notice the rise and fall of sensation in the chest, the belly, the throat. Each wave arrives, peaks, dissolves. You do not need to do the dissolving. You are the shore that receives. Ask without words, what am I when I do not hold on? Rest there, not as an answer, but as a fragrance. Feel the subtle strength that gathers when nothing is pushed away and nothing is dragged in. This is the unstoppable power of surrender, the resilience of water, the patience of mountains, the clarity of an unclouded sky. Take one soft breath as a bow to the mystery and let it go. Take another as a bow to the unrepeatable presence you are here now. Let it go. And as the mind proposes new projects, smile and return to the simple wonder of being breathed. The river knows the way. You are not lost. You are the movement. When you rise from this listening, walk more slowly. Choose words the way a musician chooses notes. Place your hand on a doorknob as if it were an altar. Look at the eyes of the next person you meet and see if, for a heartbeat, you can allow their life to be exactly as it is. Let your plans be flexible, your love unmeasured, your courage steady. Let surrender be your signature, not a secret. And when the storm returns, as it will, remember, the sky is not threatened by weather. Let the thunder roll through. Let the rain do its ancient work. Find your posture again, alert, soft, transparent, and be carried. Now we end by not ending. We end by opening. The words fall silent, and what remains does not need words. Rest there, in the unspoken center. Let the world come to you as it always has, and meet it as you have newly remembered, not as a soldier with a plan, but as a dancer with a listening body. In that listening, power moves, quiet, unstoppable, kind,